to be doing today is we're going to start out where day one is going to be business systems management, leadership, goal setting. So our goal for day one is really going to be to get you in the right mindset for 2011. And then day two is going to be all about marketing, and we're going to go just a million miles an hour, and you're going to be writing or typing as fast as you can tomorrow. So you're going to take plenty of notes today, but today is more about not just like, oh, I've got to get this exact wording on these notes and I'm going to go use this phone script or do this marketing task. Today is more about getting you to think and getting you in the right mindset of going, okay, how am I going to take this information and how am I going to implement it in my school with my students or with my staff, and how am I going to plan, okay? So that's what we're going for the first day, okay? The biggest thing that I'll say is some of y'all, you know, that I just met or talked to y'all on the phone or whatever, so I'm just meeting y'all face to face for the first time, is you got to make sure that you take your cup and you got to empty your cup today, okay? So you can't sit here and say, oh, I live in a different city, or oh, I do a different style or whatever. That's not going to work. So you have to sit here and you have to go, well, how am I going to make it work? Because it may not work exactly the way I'm telling you to do it for your style or your setup, if you have a different setup than this school, but we have to figure out how we're going to make it work. So we got a group, some people from all over the country and teaching all kind of different stuff. So everybody here is kind of ready to learn and get going. What we're going to do is we're going to jump into our first topic. Our first topic is stop doing everything yourself. Okay, so it's officially titled, You're Not Crazy, Stop Doing Everything Yourself. So sometimes you're the one man or one woman show and you're doing everything yourself and you're going nuts, you know, and that's preventing you from growing. And other times you could have like 500 students and you're not doing everything yourself. You got a big staff. How many people do you have on staff? What, 15, 20?
We have 19 staff members.
Okay, so 19 staff members. So they got 19 staff members. I mean, that's like paid staff, not including all the free assistants and stuff. Yeah, but like you can be in that situation and still be going crazy because you're still doing too much. So regardless of whether you got 50 students or 500 students, you know, you gotta sit here and you gotta let go, all right? And it's not just about letting go. I'm gonna give you some steps of how to do that. So what I'm gonna talk about now is we're gonna jump into some of the meat, is when do you delegate, okay? So when do you need to delegate? So first thing is when tasks are not getting done. I'm not going to write everything up here because it'll take us forever. If I do that, we won't make it through everything that we're supposed to do today. So first thing is when tasks aren't getting done, you need to delegate. Whether it's your task or other tasks, but that's the first sign that you need to delegate. Another thing is when you have a team to help. So you already have staff or team members. You have people in place, but maybe they don't have stuff to do. It really, really frustrates me when I see somebody at a school, whether they're the owner of the school, whether they're an instructor or receptionist, I don't care what position they are, but when one person is standing there working their butt off and the other people are standing there, we call them city workers, you know, when you drive by and you know, you got 5 of them leaning on the shovel and one person digging the ditch, you know. So that drives me nuts, especially, you know, if I'm sitting there busting my butt and I got, you know, my people watching me. That's a problem. I mean, that's an organizational issue, but plus they don't know what they're supposed to do. The next thing, Tom, you know that you need to delegate is when it's preventing you from growing. I mean, whether you're successful or not isn't the point. But if you're stuck, sometimes that's because you need to delegate. It's not always because of that, but that can be one reason. Okay? Another reason is because you want more free time. I mean, if you're working 16 hours a day, I mean, sometimes it's not about, like, if you're going to make an extra $1,000, you know, a month, you know, you're going to add $1,000 a month. Sometimes it's not about putting that $1,000 in your pocket. Sometimes, you know, time is money. It's about giving a receptionist or an instructor or whoever that $1,000 so you can have 3 hours a day off, so you're only working 13 hours a day instead of 16 hours a day, you know. The next thing, Tom, is when you need to do other tasks. That's the next sign that you really need to delegate, is when you need to do other things. So I was talking to about this with someone earlier today, is if, you're vacuuming, yeah, the school needs to be vacuumed, or the floor needs to be swept or mopped or whatever, but if you're doing that stuff, that's like an $8 an hour task. You need to focus on doing a $25 hour task, or a $100 hour task, or a $50 hour task, like signing people up, or teaching a class of 25 students or something. You can't be spending your time doing those other tasks. You gotta do the higher tasks. So here's the rule of delegation. So the rule is 80%. So what that means is that you're supposed to delegate a task when you have someone that can do the task 80% as good as you. So yeah, maybe they can't teach the class as good as you, but can they do it 80% as good as you? Okay? I mean, I know that some of us in this industry, we're perfectionists, which is what makes us really good at martial arts, But when we're managing, that can mess us up, because we're like, oh, it's got to be done exactly this way. Well, if they can do it mostly that way, and we can keep training them, then that's okay. But you got to really let go, because doing it 80% good enough for you isn't good enough for probably anybody in this room. But you gotta let go and make sure that you understand they're not going to do it as good as you, but that's okay, because if they're doing it, if we work together, if he does it 80% as good as me, but then I got to do something else that's going to bring us more students or keep us more students, we're still growing from a business standpoint. Okay, so that's the way we got to look at it, and that's painful for a lot of us. I promise you. Even if it's something like vacuuming and like there's trash on the floor or something, that drives me nuts, when I'm in the school. But you just gotta walk past it, you just gotta let go. I mean, it drives me insane. So now what we're gonna do is I'm gonna cover some steps to delegation, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna list these real quick, and then I'll come back and talk about each of them in detail. Okay, so we're just gonna list them. And I'll give you time to write, I'm just not going to write them up here. So steps to delegation. The first one is create a plan. The second one is to make sure that you talk to the person responsible. And I'll explain all these. So that means the person you're going to delegate the task to. So they're responsible for that task. Next is, number 3, is talk to the person being managed. So if I was going to talk to one of you, and now one of your tasks is going to be managing someone else, I got to talk to the person that they're going to be managing now as well. Now, on the flip side, it's not necessarily another number, it's just the flip side of that is it might not be somebody that they're managing, but it may be somebody you're taking the task away from. So you were doing that task, now she's going to do it, I'm going to talk to her first, make sure she understands that she's cool with managing that task. Taking the task away from you, so I'll talk to you. So you're either going to talk to the person that they're going to be managing, or the task is going to be taken away from. Okay. And then the next step, step number 4, is intense training. Okay, intense training, and I use the word intense for a reason. Okay. So those are our 4 steps to delegation. So, I'm sorry, I got a couple more. Our next step to delegation is we have to make sure that we measure the results. So we're going to measure the results. Step number 6 is that we're going to provide feedback. And then step number 7, we're going to repeat everything that we just talked about. So it's not something that ends. A lot of times we feel like, oh, I'm going to make this systems manual. I'm going to type up how to answer the phone or whatever, or I'm going to type up how to, vacuum or whatever it is. And so I'm going to type this task up and I'm going to delegate it to somebody, and then I retired from that task. Well, you retired from doing the task, you didn't retire from managing the task. So you either always, forever and ever and ever, you always either are doing the task or managing the task. Or if you're not going to manage the task, somebody's got to manage the task. Okay? So create a plan. So we're going to talk about that in more depth. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to decide who is supposed to do all of the tasks in our school. So to create a plan, what we would do is you would literally write out a list of every task in your martial arts school. Every single task. Now, those of y'all that are MBS members, some of y'all have emailed you my task list. I got like, 200, 250 tasks. It's a huge task list. But you would create your own task list of everything that you want done in your martial arts school. I mean, not who does it, just make a big list. Just write everything down. I mean, like making the deposits, answering the phone, vacuuming, just every little thing and every big thing. So that would be your first thing. And then the second part of making a plan is then you're going to go in and you're going to write people's names beside that. Who's going to do every task? What you want to end up doing is, in the beginning, you're going to have people's names and you're going to assign tasks to people's names. That's not what our goal is. Our goal is to go to the next level, and what that is not to assign the task to people, but we want to create job positions. You know, right now you just kind of got to make everything work with who you got, but in the future, what you want to say is, in a perfect world, you know, I'm not going to say, okay, she's going to do these tasks and he's going to do these, but I have a program director's position, or I have a receptionist position, or an assistant instructor's position. And so when he comes in, hey, I'm going to hire you for these tasks, for this job, and these are the tasks that go along with it. Right now, I'm just trying to make the task work for everybody I got. It's not going to be as efficient, okay? So in the future, you want to have actual positions, like, you know, if you were to go to, you know, another business, you're going to walk in and they're going to say, hey, if you want this job, this is the pay, these are the hours, and this is what you're going to do. So that's what we want to end up getting to. Okay? But, so that's your first step, is to create a task list, figure out who's going to do the task, and the third part of that is to figure out when they're going to do those tasks. Okay? So, you know, are you just going to let them do the stuff whenever they want to do it? Are you going to assign certain days to the task and let them do, like on Monday, they've got like this list of 10 tasks, but they can do it whenever they want on Monday? Or are you going to say, hey, these things have to be done from 10 to noon. These things have to be done from noon to 2 or whatever. So you can do it either way. I'm just giving you different ways to go down the rabbit hole. So you have to decide how detailed you want to make it. The more detailed you make it, the more efficient they're going to be, but also the easier it's going to be for you to follow up. If you just have task lists, then what you got to do, and there's no structure to it, then at the end of the week you need to say, hey, did you get all your stuff done? You know, and a whole week's went by, you know? Or if you have it broken up by the day, then you can say, did you get this stuff through, you know, done for the day, at the end of the day? If you have it broken up by the hour or by 2-hour blocks or half-hour blocks, you know, then only an hour goes by or only 2 hours go by, and you can call up or see them face to face. Hey, it's 12 o'clock. What have you done so far today? So the more organized you have it, the more efficient it's going to be, and the easier you can follow up. One of the biggest challenges I see is we wait too long to follow up. Okay, and then all of a sudden we're sitting there, and I know how I used to be when I was managing my people. Is I would sit there and I would notice stuff not being done, and I wouldn't say anything. And I would be pissed, you know, and I would just get mad, and I would just go, I wouldn't say anything, I would just go and do it myself, you know, and so then that's reinforcing those thoughts. Well, if anything's got to be done, it's, you know, it's up to me, and I'm the only one that can do it right, and I'd be saying that when I'm cleaning the floor or whatever, you know, and then all of a sudden I'd walk up to the person 6 weeks later and I'd unload on them just because they didn't like pick this thing up. But it wasn't really about that, it was all the crap from 6 weeks. You know what I'm saying? And they're like, wow, all I did was not pick up the phone. No, you didn't do this and this. Well, why didn't you tell me, you know? Yeah. So the thing is you can't do that. You can't do that. You know? Everything with your staff and with your team members is the same thing as dealing with your students. And then you also, when you're going over this, you have to emphasize the quality. What's the quality standard? Because, I mean, there is more than one way to clean the bathroom properly, okay? But there's a bunch of ways to do it wrong. Like to not do anything is one of those. So if you have a certain way you want the bathroom cleaned, you got to go in there and you got to train the person. You got to roll up your sleeves and show them how to clean. I don't know how many 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds that I've had working for me before, they've never had to clean the bathrooms. You know, I remember one staff meeting, I literally had to go up to the